Okay, guys, I'm going to go through the notes. It's been a while since we talked about this. What do you have to know for the test, right? That's what you're wondering. You're going to have to know basic tracking signs. So, what kinds of things do animals leave behind that help us track them? So, you can look at the landscape. You can look for herbivores, which will lead you to the carnivores. Obviously, vegetation type is going to lead you to the type of herbivores you might be looking for. Animals like cover, you can look for their habitat transition areas, and also what is the water source? Where can we locate that? Because they're not going to be far from that. Travel routes will have things like push down brush or vegetation. They might leave a trail behind or routes that they take regularly. For sleeping areas, you might see depressions, worn areas. You might see their dens. They might have been a burrowing animal, so you might see holes where they are. You can see rubs or hairs and feathers left behind, places where they gnaw or chew on wood especially, and of course vegetation breaks. Another sign they'll leave behind is their scat. So you're going to be looking at what is the shape, and consistency and size will tell you kind of what category this animal is from. So if it's a tubular dropping, you're looking at the dog family. If it's teardropped or tapered, you're looking at cats. Flattened threads, weasels. Pebble-like scat is going to be your rabbits. And then if it's a pebble-like scat, but with more of an oblong shape, that's going to be deer. Little tiny pencil lead looking scat is going to be from your rodents. Fox is somewhere in between dogs and cats. And then, of course, if it's an owl, an eagle, or a hawk, you might even find some regurgitated pellets. This is a good poster and image for you to go back to review kind of what the scat is going to look like. So you can see the difference in a wolf and a coyote, bear scat, excuse me, elk, deer, bighorn sheep, porcupine, squirrel scat, and then of course over here is a pile of deer scat. You can also look for the tracks that they're leaving behind. You're looking for what is the direction of their travel if you're trying to track them down. What is the shape? And shapes take practice, but one thing you can remember is that dogs are not able to retract their claws. So you're going to see claw marks in the dog family, whereas cats can retract their claws, so you're just going to see the pads of their feet. We have some animals that are what's called diagonal walkers. They move the opposite sides of their body at the same time. So here you can see the front and the back from the same side, almost touching. Here's an example of a deer footprint, kind of a teardrop shape, almost forms an upside down heart. Bounders' back legs are going to be close to their front legs, just like the gallop walkers. Pacers would be like your buffalo, cattle. Next, we talked about birds, and I included some links here. These are the links that we used in class to go over these birds listed here. So you will have to do, there's no way for me to do bird calls on the test. Since we're not in person, I can't really do the bird calls like with the practical, but you will see pictures of these species and you'll have to identify them. So here's some typical birds of South Dakota. You can quiz yourself over these blank images. You also have to know some common ducks. So what I did was I listed them here on this slide, and the following slides are just blank pictures for you to quiz yourself on. And it does go in the order of that other slide, so you can test yourself. Fish of South Dakota, we're going to go over the main ones. I included the Game Fish and Park site here as well as the Envirothon link, so you can go over the common species. So I did the same thing here. I listed the fish that are on the following slides. These are going to be blank, so you can quiz yourself. If you want to know the answer, you just go back to this slide. We reviewed some ecology. This is back from biology, so some things to remember about predator-prey relationships. The life cycles, so whether the rate is increasing or decreasing, they are going to follow the same trends. So if prey populations are decreasing, predator populations will also decrease. They influence each other's life cycles, they influence food obtaining mechanisms, and prey are all about survival. So let me fix this typo here. There we go, I feel better. Prey survival tactics could be mimicry, it could be increasing their speed, flight helps them get away from predators, blending in or camouflage, burrowing where they can't be caught, body armor, they could have poison, thorns, spines, bad odors. They could be really good at hiding, and of course just physical fighting back will help them to survive. So the evolution of these characteristics and behavior takes time, takes a lot of time, but remember that their populations will follow the same trends. So some things to remember about populations. The more stable the population is, the greater chance of surviving for that species. So some things that influence that are going to be biodiversity, genetic diversity, the abundance and complexity of the population is going to help stabilize it. As we approach carrying capacity, remember carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals that an area can support. The growth rate is going to slow down. And then we talked about R selection and K selection previously. Let's talk about biomes. Our local biome is just a temperate grassland, so you're going to see lots of different grasses and brush. It's driven by climate, which, we are in the temperate zone, so we're having more rainfall than a desert, but less rainfall than, say, a rainforest. And so our biodiversity that you see in our biome is going to be reflective of that vegetation type and the climate that we have here. Remember that ecosystems are shaped by two categories of factors, either abiotic, which is non-living, or biotic, which is living. Off of the Game Fish and Park site, you can look into what are the huntable species of our state. So I have them listed here. I would encourage you to follow this link and read about them. And of course, invasive species is something that we don't want to see. Here are the most common ones in our area. Another typo there, I gotta fix that. There we go. If you go to the SD least wanted page, it's going to give you a quick summary on each of these species. So that's a quick overview of the notes. Let's look at the study guide. So you're going to need to know what the tracks of species look like, what the general characteristics of scat are that they leave behind. For birds, you'll need to know just distinguishing marks so that you can identify them. Same thing with the fish. Here's a list of what could be on the test here. You need to know what those ones look like. And then review the ecology concepts that we just talked about when we went over the notes.